underneath the shirt or
just up here would be fine on like where this part is.
Oh,
or,
got it.
Yeah, I think that might be better. My name is Jamuelle Zumel, originally from the Bay Area, so San Jose and Oakland, and I am down here in San Diego with Open Gym and Features Color. Today was so interesting, and this morning was very interesting because I hopped on a phone call with my dad, and I just wanted to get all the facts straight. Because I had this idea in my mind that, you know, I know my grandparents a lot, but do I know every element of them? You know, and before that phone call, I knew the most direct connection was with my grandmother. And she had always been the anchor and support for our family in the sense of doing the right thing from a humanities standpoint. So she had always taken care of the kids. Always, if my mom and dad had to go out and work just to make rent, then she would hold it down at home and take care of me, take care of my brother, my sister. And like, you can only imagine that inspired generations to actually care in that sort of sense. She actually instilled a lot of just the human aspects of who I am. And that directly has carried me through the years to get through any highs and lows that I've ever had in my life. And with her, she taught me a lot, but again, I still had this vague memory. Like, I know exactly how she treated me and how she nurtured me and loved me and loved every kid in the family the same way and raised them. But I didn't know what she did. You know, I didn't know what she did for like a living, you know, because I think it's important that we kind of recognize, especially our generation, we don't have the time to slow down, but in reality, we do have the time. And that was the micro moment this morning. What I realized this morning or found out is I'm actually not full Filipino. My grandfather, who I thought was this war veteran that got shot in the foot, you know, that was to me like a hero in that sense, that completely changed this morning because I learned that he actually was Chinese. He was born in Taiwan and then grew up in Bicol in the Philippines. And first off, that was like a mind-blowing thing, right? And then my dad began to tell me about how he actually was in the food industry in the Philippines. So he actually, rather than being this big old war veteran that I thought he was, he actually ran some of the most popular Chinese restaurants in downtown Manila. So the capital of the Philippines. So it made sense. That's where I get my love for food. Within that line of our elders, we actually start to realize, again, like why we are who we are, whether it be directly taught to you and passed down or indirectly. I think it's inevitable. You kind of find that. And it's such a key experience for someone like my age to understand that, because definitely for the first chunk of my 20s, I felt lost and didn't know why I was doing things, but now I feel more at home and at center of where I am than I've ever been in my entire life. Being able to create our own world so that they can physically step into, because doing something new requires context for someone to understand it, and the only way to do that is provide as much context as you can. And luckily within food and hospitality, like a restaurant, as soon as they taste your food and see your restaurant or something like that, they have full trust in it, you know? And I think having that sort of pressure in a way growing up, it actually turned me away from the idea of family, because then I had always felt like that black sheep of the family, or that kid that was just trying to figure it out constantly, right? But as I got older, I started understanding that they're not doing that because they want you to fail. They're doing that because they're finding a way or trying to find a way to support you in what you're doing, because they love you so much. They don't want you in a position where you don't succeed, you know? And success looks different for everybody. But I think with family, the true definition of family for me is being able to stick it through any sort of time together, and being able to, I always have this theory that life is a series of waves, and it's never about riding the wave, but it's actually about staying right in center. Right. And family to me, especially in these times, has kept me on that center line. Yeah, and I think family kind of comes in different waves. Some people, I know I was distant from my family for a little bit, and I wish I could make up for that lost time, that chunk. Luckily, it wasn't too long. And now, being down here in San Diego and with them in the Bay, I feel like this is the closest I've felt in connection with them since I had moved down. And I think that only happens through, again, being able to open conversation within the family.
Right.
I think culture is what you make it. I think there's so many ways that you can go about defining culture, and what we've been taught is sort of base level. I think the knowledge is out there and you have to go seek it. And with culture, it really is not just identity, but I think it's substance. It's what makes a human being that much more of themselves. From something that you can define and then the undefinable. And I think that's something that we don't talk about too much, where we try to categorize a lot of things, we kind of define a lot of things, and we kind of put ourselves in a box and paralyze ourselves. And I think, especially growing up, because I actually was born in the Philippines, and I moved here when I was 6 months old. And every person that I've talked to within the Filipino culture has a different perspective. And we all might feel like we're alone or we're in our own category, but we're a lot closer than we think, because there are overlaps, right? There's more than 100 different regions or provinces or dialects in the Philippines. Does that make us all different? Yes. Does that make us all people? Absolutely. But culture is what unifies us together, because we're all actively defining it by living it out on a day-to-day basis. And I think for me, being Filipino American, I'm just getting started with my story, truthfully. And I think the importance of learning what my elders and my ancestors have done is that I'm writing that story as an extension of what they've written. And to me, like that gets me emotional a little bit. So,
right.
Yeah. With the most recent conversations I've had, I've come across a lot of people that feel kind of disparate about it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And are sort of still finding their way as well. But sometimes I think all it takes is just someone that's willing to listen to that. You know what I mean? And just provide space to listen and not necessarily respond, but a safe space so that we can actually heal through the process of talking about it. I don't want to make it too complex, but I think it's a mixture of the joy and the tragedy. I think it's a beautiful balance between what has been and what could be, And I think that is rooted in the nuances of not necessarily the culture, but the people within the culture. I think that's what true Asian joy is. And I think we're finding that now. Although it is a really tough time, that also feeds into what Asian joy means to everybody within the culture as well. And I think more and more people are also starting to understand that, even if you're not Asian.
Yeah.
I think it comes from within. It comes from a lot of digging and understanding. But on the surface level too, it comes from being able to fully accept what actually makes you happy, not what might by definition should make you happy, but actually enjoying the things that you do. So part of that too is within our food concepts, like within Open Gym, with our ramen shop we just opened, we're super anime forward. We're super vinyl record forward.
Oh, man.
We geek out about that stuff. We have little figurines of Naruto and Astro Boy and different things like that, And it's this journey of self-love through finding that identity. And I think that's sort of, for us, one expression of Asian joy, of many. And I think it takes a collection of just that, an archive of people and what they really feel it is, to then really help shape what it means to anybody. there. And then we've also had people like saying or bringing their own little figurines and toys and like just saying like, yo, I just wanted to give this to you guys.
Wow.
Because this is like part of my childhood, and like, and we encourage like that case that we have all of them on. Eventually will be a whole community of them. And it'll be a representation of like all the things that made us who we are within that time of our basically coming of age, to then be that place that hopefully if it's a blip in your day, it reminds you of like exactly that, like your own piece of like Asian joy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's to be able to write history now is so key, and it's so for the future to know that we can plant the seeds now so the trees will grow and our kids can then eat the fruit. I think stepping into that mentality now with everything, for me, is the embodiment of what my elders have instilled in me and what I hope I can achieve now. And for anybody else out there that's looking for answers or for just people to talk to, I think in my experience, looking down and being so focused on the thing, the moment I was able to actually look up and look around me and talk to people around me as well, is the moment that I had felt truly happy in the process.